thank you very much, right, to the moderator and also the third presenter. So I'm going to proceed with my presentation, right? But before that, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Reshminder Kaur, and I'm currently teaching aviation maintenance and also aviation management students at a university based in Malaysia. So the study that I have actually conducted is actually involving the aviation management group students, right? And the title or the scope of my study is basically to look at the spoken and written communication needs of aviation management trainees, right? So before I go on, right, I just like to introduce, even though the borders are still closed here, right, but we still have understanding about the importance of air transportation because it can connect people all around the globe, right? So basically, since the beginning of the aviation industry, right, Malaysia has also joined in force with the rest of the countries, right, to expand on the aviation industry. And what we have now is uh, increased number of airlines and MRO organizations operating in Malaysia, right? So there are a number of low cost and also um, uh, low cost airlines as well as uh, as well as other airlines that are operating in Malaysia, and also some MRO organizations, right, that do maintenance, repair and overhaul and servicing of the aircrafts in Malaysia, right. We also have uh, quite a number of airports, right, in Malaysia, right, which are managed by the government and semi-government companies. Increased number of aircraft companies that basically assemble the aircraft parts, right, in Malaysia, and competition among freighter companies, right, the local as well as the foreign companies that have invested in Malaysia, right. So basically, Malaysia is taking lead, right, to be one of the leading aviation hub, right, in Asia. So moving on, right, at the same time, right, as Malaysia is progressing into advance in the aviation industry, right, they also have been recognized, right, to be leading in terms of managing the aviation industry, right. So why is there such an expansion? Is because there are capable and skillful aviation management personnel. So aviation management refers to relevant and much needed skills, right, required in coordinating aviation activities such as air transport industry, namely basically managing the network management, the fleet management, revenue management, human resource management, and operating performance management. So we have this expertise in Malaysia, but because these experts are basically those who have worked for many years in the industry, and therefore they gain the experience, right? So the country is now trying to produce fresh graduates who are capable to become aviation management personnel due to the demand, right? Now, moving on. Okay, so aviation management education or aviation management program basically started back in the 80s, right? Because there was a need to fulfill trainees' interest in pursuing their career in the aviation industry, but at the same time, these trainees or these recruits are more interested in doing the management of the airline or aviation companies such as the airport or logistics department rather than becoming the pilots or aircraft or engineers of the aircraft, right? So therefore there was a need, right, to develop the program, and as of today there are several aviation institutions, right, renowned institutions that are also offering this program. Now, this is what the aviation management scope actually covers, right? So it covers the airport management. So basically, people working as aviation management personnel, they can be based in the airports. They can be airport managers. They can be those who are looking after the facilities in the airport, managing the airport, and also managing businesses with the airlines. Right, they also can be working in the airline, like managing the airline business in terms of like um, uh, business transactions between airlines and also um, agents and the other countries. Sorry, I'm just a bit nervous, right? And also they can work in the air traffic management department, right, where they can actually work on doing research on how to reduce air traffic and how to serve better, right? And also they can work in the logistic management company, right, to suggest ways on how the logistic companies can increase their revenues, can increase their profit, right, and also minimize their costs. So these are basically uh, the four areas that the aviation management students are probably going to join, right, upon graduating from the program, right? So the scope is quite wide, and it is also known that English is the lingua franca in the aviation industry, right? So even though in countries like Russia and China, right, their native languages are still used, right? But generally, right, ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, has already made English as the dominant language for all aviation organizations, right? And also ICAO has suggested that for developing the aviation English course, right? ESP, which is English for specific purpose, right, should be the scope, right, that the course developers focus on, right? So the research background, right, of my study is that um, the documents used by aviation management personnel are basically all in English, right? The manuals, the annexes, right? So it could be documents that are used by the pilots, engineers, or even the aviation management people, those who are working in managing, those who work in the offices to manage the business transactions. They also need to refer to certain manuals, they need to refer to certain aviation documents, and all these documents are in English. So there's several studies that has been done, for example, in Taiwan, right? And also they have suggested that even though the native language is still dominant in that country, but the language that they still use, right, for reporting or uh, um, for the purpose of submission to the authority is still in English. Right. So the objectives of the study is to investigate the communication skills needed by aviation management personnel in the industry, and the research seeks to investigate the spoken and written needs of aviation management personnel. Right. So, um, right. So these are the five components or core skills and sub-level competencies that aviation management trainees or personnel need, right, in order for them to be serving the industry. So the first is the leadership skills, followed by subject matter excellence. Now, communication is also one of the core, and also there are sub-level of competencies that are involved, right, such as listening, speaking, reading, and writing, right? Teamwork as well as individual resilience and innovation individual. Right? So these are the core and sub-level competencies, right? But my study will focus on communication because um, this is one uh, level, or this is one aspect that has still not been given importance, right? Especially in countries where English is not the first language, when English is a second language, right? So in countries where English is the first language, there's usually no English courses that are offered to the students who are undertaking the aviation management courses. But in Malaysia, for those students who are studying about aviation management, they need to study English, right? But whether they need to study general English or whether they need to study specific English, right, it is still arguable or is still not being explored. Therefore, this is the reason why this study was initiated, right? So even though there has not been any studies reported, right, specifically for developing or development of English for aviation management personnel, right, but there are some studies that has mentioned about the needs for proficiency as well as the needs of good communication skills, right? So unlike the pilots and air traffic controllers and also engineers, right, the International Civil Aviation Organization has already made it compulsory for these personnel to have the proficiency, the desired proficiency level, right, to enable them to serve the companies that they are working for. But for the aviation management personnel, right, it is still not compulsory. Okay. Now, aviation English, right, was officially developed, right, since the ELP, the English Language Proficiency test was developed for the pilots and air traffic controllers. But before that, also, there are studies that has been done on aviation English, and it has already existed even before the document 9835 was released for the pilots and air traffic controllers. So aviation English training includes broad focus on aviation related language such as meteorology, physics, navigation, right, and etc. But it also encompasses other aspects such as communication, right? So, for example, communication, where these personnel are also contributing to the safety aspect of the organization, right? So, uh, this study is basically done, right, based on the needs analysis concept, right? So the different purpose of learning English must consist of different language programs, and to enable us to understand what are the purpose. Therefore, the situation analysis and also present situation analysis and the learner factor analysis or learning situation analysis needs to be conducted. So basically for target situation analysis, what is expected is the trainees are supposed to understand what is the kind of language or what's the need of using English in the industry. Present situation analysis, what is currently being studied in the course that they are undertaking, right? And is there any similarities or any differences with what is expected in the actual workplace? And what are some of the learning needs of or the learner's needs? Right? What sort of language program they would like to enroll in, and what kind of activities will they like to be part in? Will they like to be part? Will they like to participate in when learning English? Right? Now, so these are some examples of needs analysis that has been done, right, related to aviation research. And so there, if you can go through this list, there are studies that has been done for maintenance students, there are studies that has been done for flight attendants, there are studies that has been done for airport service personnel, right, for air traffic controllers, for pilots, um, as well as for cabin service staff, right? So there are very little literature that has been reported, right, on the communication needs of aviation management trainees. Right? So this study actually employed a mixed method, right, whereby there was two instruments used: a unstructured interview, open-ended questions, as well as the survey questionnaire. Right?
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but maybe we can focus on the salient points of the study and summarize to share more time. Thank you. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, it's okay. So basically, what some of the important findings that the study has made is that even though English is the second language, right, for most of the respondents here in Malaysia, but it is one of the most common language used in the aviation industry. So announcements and documents are all compulsory to be written in English, right? And also the views on importance of using English. So this the personnel in the aviation industry agree that they have to use English. So even though Bahasa Melayu, which is the native language, right, is used for certain documentation. However, the rest of the communication must be in English, right? Moving on, right? So I'll just skip this then. So these are examples of the speaking activities that needs to be done in English, right? And the survey shows that they actually do use English very often, right? We're conducting this kind of speaking tasks, right? And some of the factors that affect their speaking ability is the lack of skills, right? In terms of English speaking skills, exposure and practice, lack of vocabulary, and also pronunciation, right? Then the other factors that could actually affect their speaking ability is the anxiety, the different English accent, as well as the departmental issues that they face. Right. As for the writing tasks that they require to use English, these are example of tasks that they will have to use English, right, when working in the aviation industry. And as you can see it here, most of these tasks needs to be done in English. And what are the factors that affect participants' writing ability? Lack of exposure, inadequate knowledge on writing conventions, and unfamiliar with aviation jargon.
Benden pis almış.
Right? So, summary of the study is that
Özümü onunla sakinleştirdim.
yeah, so summary of the study is that even though there are some factors, even though English is the second language, but it's still compulsory, right, for us to mandate the learning of English for a specific purpose, right, for these aviation management trainees. Right, and moving on. Now, the need to identify the reading and listening skills is also important, not just the speaking and writing skills that has been discussed, right? And a thorough target situation analysis and present situation analysis needs to also be done, right? And stakeholders believe that trainees need to be proficient in English, technical language, and business communication. As such, the aviation management training must emphasize on the importance of good communication ability. So basically, it has to be a blend of English, technical language, as well as business communication for the aviation management trainees. Right, so that's all